folks, how's it going? This is Kenneth the K-Rock Klein here, and we're back for another edition of the ETV Sportsnet Coaches Show. And today we're talking with our head men's basketball coach, Brandon Curran. Now, before we get the interview started, I must say I am a little disappointed because I was thinking about bringing some fishing gear and all that with me because obviously there was something about Coach Curran's post-game interview against UT Dallas that struck me as interesting. But unfortunately, bass fishing is a hard team to negotiate with. But the reason why I bring that up, Coach, is because you had just beaten UT Dallas for the first time in your coaching career, but it also put it into a 7-game skid against the Comets, and that's always been a team that, we look back and say that's been a hard challenge as well. But what I find fascinating was that even afterwards, you called that pretty much a fish win or something to that effect. I mean, maybe I'm a little bit wrong. You can correct me on this, but could you kind of elaborate on what you exactly mean by that?
Yeah, in the post-game interview, talking about UT Dallas, it was a big deal. It was a big deal to our seniors. It was a big deal to myself personally of something that wanted to get done and wanted to help them get done. And it's not something that ETBU had done much in the last, I think, 10 years. And it was the largest margin of victory we had ever had against UT Dallas. So it felt satisfying as a team and personally also. And in the interview, I made a comment of it's just fish. And that's no disrespect intended. That came about during our team discipleship time. We were talking about Luke chapter 5, where Peter decides to follow Jesus. And when Peter meets Jesus for the first time, Jesus actually gets into Peter's boat, pushes out from the land, and he's teaching people from the water. And then he says when he gets done teaching, hey, Peter, put down your nets and let's catch some fish. And Peter was a fisherman by trade, and he had been fishing all day, hadn't caught anything, but he says, hey, Jesus, if you say so, I'll do it. Well, they catch so many fish, it starts to sink the boat. They get another boat to come out to help them. Both boats are sinking. There's so many fish. Well, to Peter, that's money. That is wealth. That is prosperity. That is career success. If I can fish with Jesus, we're going to do pretty well. And Jesus says, you're way more than a fisherman. This isn't about fish. Come follow me. And in that moment, Peter recognizes his sin, his need for a Savior. He recognizes who Jesus is, and he's willing to drop everything to go with Jesus. And so for us, just remembering that our peace, our shalom, our contentment comes through our relationship with Christ, and not because of a basketball win or a success or a ring or career success or anything like that. And so that's what we had talked about. And so that's what we meant. And so in the locker room, we're excited, we're celebrating. And we just said, it's just fish. And that's every game. That's the season. Fish are valuable. Fish are important, especially to fishermen, but they're just fish. And so we want to always keep perspective and not lose sight of that.
Absolutely, Coach. So you follow that up with a game against the University of Ozarks. And this was a team, of course, that had really given you trouble over the last season. And they kind of were neck and neck with you. Even though you were able to pull away in the end, winning by 16 points or so, it took you 22 unanswered points late in the game to kind of separate yourself in that situation. So just kind of talk about, that game in particular, just, things that, you were impressed with and things that kind of stood out to you as a learning curve for the team.
Well, number one, I think Coach Carruthers does an outstanding job. Last year we split with them at Ozarks. I think we had some momentum. We had won some games going into that. And we were playing our 3-2 zone at the time, and I thought they did the best job of anybody up to that point in the season of attacking that. And I thought they did a really, really good job. And so I had no doubt they were going to come in here prepared, and they were. And their guards are really, really good, and their big guys, I think, in offensive rebounding rate, they're near the top of the conference with their bigs. And I just thought they did an outstanding job. And they did some things that made things difficult, but I thought our guys just stayed the course. They continued to work hard, even though we were turning it over uncharacteristically a lot in the first half. We had 9 turnovers in the first half. We were able to correct that, only had 3 in the second half, got a little bit sharper. I thought our defense tightened up a little bit, got huge contributions off the bench by guys stepping in and playing well. And then we're able to go on a 22-0 run and pretty much close out the game somewhere around the 8-minute mark, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I'm looking at the box scores lately of your games recently, and obviously, I'm seeing your typical starting 5. They'll have their moments where somebody steps up as well. But the thing that's been really the most impressive to me is I'm looking at all the other types of scoring, like points in the paint, points off turnovers, fast break points, but then there's like the bench points, and it really seems like that recently your bench has been stepping up. I mean, I'm talking about the Nathan Fontenot's, the Colton Collinses, Jaden Williamses, and recently the Jarrell Taylors and all this and that. But, you know, it almost feels like you might have like 75 points, almost a little over half of those coming from your bench, or I don't know if there was one time where it was like 51 or something to that effect, while the other team had like 9. But talk about, I mean, obviously you have a very deep team. Talk about, you know, the bench and what, you know, how their role is just as effective as a starter for those that probably might not know the ins and outs of the game.
Well, number one, I would say that's a credit to Coach Freeman, Coach Rahman, Coach Mack, for recruiting and bringing in good players here over the last couple of years. And so we've got a lot of depth. And, you know, every day in practice, we actually split up into 3 different teams, and it's really, really competitive. And we have a lot of competition. And we put, you know, a 33, that's a sprint drill that we do. We put a 33 on the line after every drill, and the guys compete. And it doesn't matter if you're on the red team or the white team or the blue team or the gold team. Like, it's going to be a battle every single day. And when you do that, iron sharpens iron, and guys get better and better and better. And whether you're a starter right now for us or a guy coming off the bench, you can play, you can contribute. I thought a guy that stepped in and did a great thing for us on Saturday against Ozarks was Tevin Baker. Came in and just gave us a spark, immediately caught it, went to the rim, had a nice finish, moved the ball, made simple plays, defended. I thought he did great. You know, the game before it was Colton Collins. We've seen Nate Fontenot do that. Jarrell Taylor off the bench in the first half was outstanding. Jaden Connor pretty much ended the game on the offensive glass for the last minute and 20 seconds. I think he had 3 offensive rebounds on 1 possession, just kept extending the possession another 20 seconds over and over and over again. And, you know, when you can get guys to come off the bench and contribute the way that they have been, it makes my job really difficult and easy. The difficult part is making sure that you get those guys in and get them in a rhythm. That's the difficult part. The easy part is like watching and saying, okay, who's going well right now? Let's just stick with them. And so, you know, we talked to the team about that just after the game. Because of the way it's gone, there's not a consistency of like, this guy's playing 25 minutes, this guy's playing 20 minutes, this guy's playing 30 minutes. Every game, it's just kind of what group is rolling. Once they get tired, let's make some substitutions. Let's see how that goes. And so it's been a good challenge. It's been a good thing for us to have. And I've really enjoyed watching these guys improve and just continue to work.
And it certainly has kind of given me a different perspective of seeing you kind of bringing in players off the bench. Like, I mean, I could be wondering, okay, you know, what's the big deal? What's happening? But, I mean, it definitely, when I kind of get a big picture of what's going on the court, it definitely changes my perspective of things in a situation like that. So, with all this said, you're back home again this weekend, but this weekend, of course, you're taking on Howard Payne and Sul Ross State University. And I think by now I kind of get an understanding of how the games are grouped, to say the least. But obviously, you know, another big challenge is, of course, with Howard Payne, certainly not where they want to be at this point. So definitely a game that you need to look out for. But the bigger game probably this Saturday against Sul Ross State. I mean, I got a feeling that could be a big marquee matchup, considering that the recent history between the two teams as well. So obviously, when you're continuing to play in big game, and every game in conference is a very big game, does the mindset simply change to, okay, we need to, you know, keep playing the way our brand of basketball, or do we just need to, you know, make some adjustments depending on the opponent?
Well, number one, bring your best when your best is required. Your best is required every day. We're going to talk about that this afternoon in practice. That's a quote from John Wooden. We want to be our best every single day. We want to give our best effort every single day. And it's great to be playing well right now, but we really need to be playing our best at the end of the year. And the only way we do that is if we avoid complacency, we don't feel any type of satisfaction, we just come out and play hard. We are not looking past Howard Payne to Sul Ross. Howard Payne does a lot of things that are difficult. Defensively, they play man, they play a 3-2 zone, they've played a box and one zone, they 1-2-2 press. Offensively, I think they are second in the league in possessions per game and pace per game. They're playing really, really fast. They've got a kid over the last 5 games in Jason Maguez that's averaging 25 points a game. They've got another kid that's shooting, number 12, is shooting a ridiculous rate from 3 right now. So they present a lot of challenges. And so that's a big game in and of itself. In conference, every game is huge. I mean, there's just no easy nights. And then we do have Sul Ross on Saturday. And Sul Ross, I think they've won 4 or 5 in a row right now. They are 6 possessions on the year from being 12-2. They are a very, very good team. They also do some things defensively that are just different than what you see every day in the league. And then offensively, they do a great job with their motion. And so both of those teams present challenges. So we're going to work hard to get ready for Howard Payne on Thursday. Then we'll get ready for Sul Ross on Friday and hopefully have a great weekend for us.
Absolutely, Coach, and we cannot wait to see your boys continue to hopefully keep the ball rolling, to so to speak, and hopefully pick up a couple more wins as well. That does it for this edition of the ETSU Sportsnet Coaches Show with Brandon Kernan. Tune in next week when we talk more men's basketball, and we'll have more on the YouTube channel.